The ticket number 12 is in. Let us go back to New York.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cover1, the podcast. I am Russell Brown, and I am joined for the very first time, my co-host, Erik Turner. Erik, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Russ? How's your Sunday going, man?
No football, dude. It sucks.
I know, right?
First one in like 5-6 months, no football. It's terrible.
Yeah, and it's that time of the season, especially when you talk about, being winter and the Northeast over here. Obviously, you're over in Michigan, so the weather's bad. There's not much to do outside and no football. So it's a lot of draft talk, right?
That's right, dude. That's what we're doing. So we've got some announcements on cover1.net right now. Brad Kelly, we've got an announcement as far as him coming over and joining us here at Cover1. He's a wide receiver, I guess you could say guru if you wanted to call him that, but he's fantastic. He breaks down technique, route running, all that stuff all the time on his Twitter page. So be sure to follow him as he's going to be sending us reports all the time. Right now he's getting into it with Nick Whalen. It's awesome. But yeah, I mean, you brought him over. You kind of know a little bit more about him. And then you've also got an announcement as far as the draft database partnership. So why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about that for us?
Yeah, the draft database is actually run by Bobby Bell, one of the best Cowboys correspondents and analysts out there. But basically what he does for every single team is he throws together all of the measurables and, height, weight, arm length, all those measurables of front offices. For example, on the website right now, we have a lot of the data that Brandon Beane, the general manager, some of his top lieutenants and scouts, and how they have drafted over the last few years. And this is something a lot of people do, but Bobby just goes in so much depth when it comes to this stuff. And you'll see throughout the draft season, we're gonna be updating these numbers. I mean, you'll see on the screen, all these numbers are going to be and data are going to be updated throughout the season, draft season, with the combines and the pro days. And from this, you're going to see a lot of data and thresholds that are going to be calculated that the Buffalo front office, kind of looks for when they're looking for prospects for each position. So if you get to the site right now, cover1.net, you're going to see the quarterbacks, running backs, basically every position except two that have thresholds mapped out right now. And again, it's not quite complete because all that data is not in yet, but get to the site for that. Another announcement that we have is in regards to the draft tracker. If you go up to the website, again, you're going to have a draft tracker. You're going to have all the information you need on any of the prospects. And, again, their heights, their weight, their measurements. These are things you're going to see throughout the season that are updated. It's pretty cool because you can also do a search where when you want to look for a specific player, for example, one of the guys we're going to study today, Lamar Jackson, you type his name in, hit the drop-down menu, all of his information right there, 40s, broad jump, all of that, and even his grade. If we have already graded him, which with Lamar I have, you're going to see his grade there. And then finally the link to that scouting report or any content that we have produced for any of these, prospects, because sometimes we don't write total scouting reports on guys. So you're going to have, for example, Russ, you probably have some, Twitter moments in regards to, or threads on Twitter that, show video of you breaking this guy down, but you just haven't written it out. You're going to have those linked into this draft tracker. So definitely a cool resource to have on the site now.
Yeah, and to piggyback on it, it was something that we kind of talked about a couple of weeks ago. We were like, I was like, hey, it'd be sweet if we could kind of get like a tracker going.
Yeah.
Our rankings are up there. And then just boom, like that, snap of the finger, everything kind of just came together. And it's going to work out perfectly. So definitely check it out, the database, the tracker. It's going to be very, very crucial come draft time for everybody that can't really keep up with the draft, because I get it. There's 256 draft picks. There's 1,000 players to pay attention to. We're going to cover as many guys as we possibly can. And adding Brad Kelly, you, me, Dan, John, all these guys that we've brought on, it's going to be a lot of fun. And speaking of some fun, we're going to have some today with two players that we're going over. Mike McGlinchey, offensive tackle out of Notre Dame, quarterback Lamar Jackson, who you just wrote up about.
Mm-hmm.
Two very intriguing prospects, guys that kind of get some first-round buzz. Maybe they're not first-round talents. We'll kind of jump into it a little bit. I've got two clips I want to go over with Mike McGlinchey, and we'll kind of talk about him a little bit. He was a team captain these last 2 years, 2016, 2017. He's a big body dude, 6'8", 315 pounds or so. He's kind of versatile as far as the fact that he can play left tackle, right tackle. He's kind of gone back and forth. And this past year, he made the full transition to left tackle. He's just a fantastic player as far as that goes. But there's definitely things that you watch on tape and you're like, I don't know if this guy is a left tackle. I don't even know if this guy's an offensive tackle. People have even gone out to say he's a guard. I fully disagree with that. But I mean, this guy played tight end in college or in high school. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He had offers from Tennessee, Florida State, Michigan State, and then he went to Notre Dame, visited, and a day later he signed and committed. So he must have really liked what he saw there, and for the right reasons. I think he picked the right school. I mean, he was a second-team All-American in 2016. Just really an interesting prospect.
Like, so tell me a few, strengths of his and weaknesses, because I know there have been rumors of him possibly playing guard, and that's because one of his strengths is, he can move out in space and he's decent at targeting in the run game. But I mean, a 6'8", 312 projector right now. I mean, obviously, like you said, I don't think he's a guard. I think he definitely is a tackle, more than likely on the right side, right?
Yeah, no, I would definitely think that. I don't know if he's a guy that you want anchoring your blind side. But, I mean, still, right tackles are very important because now you've got to really focus on speed rushers because they bring guys now all over the field. Defensive ends, no matter what it is, these edge guys, they're all over the place. And he's going to have to transition over to the right side more than likely. But I think he's a guy that, he struggles a little bit power, speed rushers, those true speed rushers. I mean, we're talking those guys that are going to probably run in the 4 or 5s. He's going to struggle a little bit with those guys. But, I mean, honestly, what offensive tackles don't, right? I mean, a lot of guys struggle with that.
Yeah.
But he's a big guy. He's going to be hard to move around at 6'8", that frame. Overall, though, I mean, the hand placement I think is pretty good. I like the things I see in that. He operates well in space, but he's just so big. There's no way you can move him inside. So I think he's definitely a right tackle in the regards of transitioning to the NFL because he's got the experience there too. I don't want to hear so many people have talked about Orlando Brown saying, well, he's played left tackle his whole career. How can you expect him to transition to right tackle? Well, fortunately for McGlinchey, he's played left and right tackle. And really this past year was his first full year as a left tackle, which is why I think his tape is kind of vanilla. It's kind of like, it's kind of so-so. So if you put him back over the right side, I think he'll be comfortable, and I think we'll see some good things. So end of the first round guy is where I think he'll be personally when it comes to the draft. So we'll see.
Yeah, what I like about him, you talked about the versatility and position, playing right tackle. I think it was like 13 games. And then also, obviously playing left side this year. I like his versatility in the run game because when you get a guy like that with that size, sometimes you have, issues with pad level. Sometimes you have issues with him getting out into space, but he's shown in the run game, especially, that he can get out in the space, and he's versatile in that department too, because at Notre Dame, they had obviously they had a really good coach, one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, who is making the jump to the NFL with the Bears now. But they ran a lot of gap. They ran a lot of man. They ran a lot of zone blocking. So he's got that versatility in all run schemes. And that at the next level is going to be obviously one of his strengths. And we're going to go over one of the run plays and show how much how his athleticism in the clip. So let's go ahead and bring up the film and get to it.
Yep, and I think these two clips that I pulled up, I think which I will put in my scouting report for everybody to kind of watch 10 times over. But I think these are two perfect examples of kind of the pros and the cons of him. One as a run blocker and two as a pass blocker. And this is going to be the run block play. Both of these clips are pretty early in the year. You got Michigan State, Georgia. This is going to be simply handoff to Josh Adams, who's huge at 6'2", 220, maybe even 230. But you've got McGlinchey. He's going to just come out. It's going to be just operating in space. And it almost looks like he wanted to double team with the tight end a little bit initially, his aiming point right there. And then, boom, he gets out, gets to McDowell, the linebacker. And really, McDowell's got to rip inside here. He doesn't. If he rips inside, he's making the tackle at the 30, 32.
Sure.
But McGlinchey does a really good job. Why? Because he's low pad level at this point. Hands are inside. And then he's going to take you 2-3 yards downfield. So, go ahead.
No, I love this play. Honestly, it's outside zone, wide zone run,
yeah.
And let's initially kind of on a side note, let's totally not pay attention to Nelson here because he does.
Yeah.
I mean, these two working together over the last few years have been A great tandem to have side by side on that left side. And you see real quick that, he executes that, reach block, and then he turns him inside, which obviously gives Adams that lane as well. But back to McGlinchey. I like this wide zone run. You see the bucket step. He wants to, lose ground to gain ground is what they say in zone runs. And so you want to see him lose ground there. Why? Because initially you're going to see this defensive end, he's inside. So for a running back on this outside track, your first read in the outside zone is that first man outside of the tight end or tackle. And usually if there's a wide 9, if there's someone wide out here, the run's immediately going to be cut back in. That's your pre-snap read as a running back. But post-snap, that tight end does a good job of reaching him and staying with that defensive end.
Yeah, he's actually a pretty good run blocker, number 86. I don't know his name off the top of my hand, but he's a very good run blocker. And like you were pointing out to Nelson and number 53, their center, just great backside blocking right there to seal that, where Adams gets free. Chris Fry, no, that's not Chris Fry. I think that's Joe Bocci that comes in and almost makes the tackle, but Adams just shakes this one off because he's so thick, and then he just, boom.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, this turns into like a 7-yard play.
And this is a tough block by McGlinchey, and it shows off his athleticism because, again, like you had mentioned, it almost looks like he wants to help the tight end there. He wants to help widen that hole, but he's not within reach. So he's got to make a decision. Okay, now I got to move to second level.
Yeah.
The timing of the play, he's got to be within the timing of this outside zone and the reads of the running back. Everything has to be in sync. And, he makes a great decision here of starting to move the second level. Okay, find my target. Now get my body in position to block this guy. Now, is he a bigger player than this, linebacker,
yeah,
defender? Absolutely. But that makes it even much better of a block because to target this guy.
That player's more athletic than him, too.
Yeah, definitely. And you see he does a great job as that defender gets downhill and tries widen just a little bit. Man, he locks on, and Adams obviously gets upfield.
Exactly. I will point out, watch ESB on the wide receiver on the left side. He absolutely just doesn't block anybody downfield. So if anybody's watching receivers, pay attention to that.
Yeah, that is kind of a weak push crack on that to the safety. He's really not really picking up anyone. That's a great point.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I'm like, where is he going? But no, yeah, I really like that play. And McGlinchey does this time and time again. Does he miss? Does he do it 10 out of 10 times? No. Does he probably do it 7 out of 10 times? Absolutely. So is it above average? No, as far as consistency, but I think he does it enough at the next level that he's going to be just fine. As far as
this is a really good play, and I like that you chose this one because again, it shows off his versatility and his athleticism. And for a guy, this guy's 6'8". I mean, that's not the easiest movement for a guy of that size.
Yeah, I mean, if he runs, like 5'10" in the 40, and he's moving in those 20-yard shuttles and 30-yard shuttles, just at the average, I'd be more than pleased with that because I mean, I think you're going to get average tests out of him as far as time-wise when it comes to the athletic drills. So
yeah, no, that was a good clip. We're going to show obviously a pass block here. So kind of set up this play right now and what's going on with Notre Dame versus Georgia.
Yep. All right. So we got the pass play. So much talent on the field right now. You've got Lorenzo Carter rushing off on the right side. You've got Devin Bellamy rushing off on the left side. You've got Roquan Smith in the middle. You've got Saunders playing down in the box. That's Roquan Smith. I mean, there's tons of talent. You got Josh Adams, Quentin Nelson. Then you've got Mike McGlinchey, Durham Smythe, the tight end. We saw him down in the Senior Bowl. You're going to get a DPI call here on Saunders to Smythe. They actually throw the flag. The field judge, like 20 yards down the field, is going to throw this.
Yeah.
But initially looking at McGlinchey, this is just him anchoring power versus power. And the biggest problem that I see is he's not below pad level. Why? I mean, he's 6'8", blocking a guy that's 6'4", 6'5". Bellamy right now below pad level. He's already got him beat. He fully extends before McGlinchey does, and this is essentially setting up the power. My biggest problem is Wimbush. He's got a clear pocket.
It's a nice pocket, yeah.
And he doesn't step up at all. He's going through first read, throws to Smythe, and fortunately he gets the DPI call, but he misses this throw by 2 yards to the outside. The best bet would have been stepping up, checking down to Adams, even though, yes, Roquan's there, probably would have cleaned up the play nicely, but he had all day to make this throw. McGlinchey, I think still, even though, he gives up some ground, kick steps pretty smooth for a guy that's playing wide 9 out there, outside shoulder of the tight end.
Mm-hmm.
You've got essentially just a good block all the way through. This is falling on the quarterback, not stepping up. You got Quentin Nelson sealing off his block. He falls down.
Yeah, I do like this play, and I think it does, again, map out kind of who this guy is. And I mean, this angle block, it's not bad. I like his angle on his kick slide here. Pretty good angle to the rusher with, like you said, in that wide 9. That's not easy. I like that his shoulders are squared towards the rusher. I do like that. He's not turned. Obviously, that rusher isn't really, known for being a speed rusher, and I think that's the type of rushers that McGlinchey is going to struggle with at the next level. But I like the angle of the kick slide. I like his footwork here. I think he has a decent base. But my problem, and you talked about his hand placement, is he comes with wide hands, and that's a big no-no. And what does that do? That gives that defender his chest. All right, and that's exactly what happens here. That gives that defender his chest, and obviously then that defender, all he has to do is use that power, that bull rush, and he just drives him back in the Wimbush. And again, Wimbush had a clean pocket, but if we're zoning in on McGlinchey here, I think everything leading up into the contact, I think that hand placement is just too wide, and that's not good because, each week in the NFL, you're going to have scouting reports on each individual player. And as a pass rusher, you're going to see, okay, this is what he does. When I set up with a stutter rush, this is, his hand placement's always bad on this type of rush. So this is something that is going to he's going to be attacked at the next level, no doubt about it, with his hand placement. And he cannot give that up because, as you had mentioned, as far as anchoring, it's not his strongest trait. And you see it here. If he doesn't have proper hand placement, if he's not on top of his technique with that hand placement and winning that hand battle initially on contact, defenders are just going to eat him up and then just drive him because they're going to be a lot stronger than the rusher here. And this could happen rep in and rep out, honestly, at the next level.
Yeah, because now you're playing against the fastest, strongest.
Sure.
And, I mean, Bellamy is definitely a draftable player.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see his name called, I would think, probably day 3 of the draft personally. But, I mean, really when you look at it, and if you watch it side by side with the left tackle and the right tackle, if you watch that right tackle, number 72, he's getting a rush from Lorenzo Carter. His kick slide isn't as smooth as McGlinchey's.
Definitely not.
He plays below pad level right as you keep going. He's pretty much below pad level there, and then he resets and he holds ground. He's below pad level, and he doesn't get pushed into Wimbush, and there's definitely more room on that right side to where McGlinchey gives up that ground. And it's because right when that contact was made, it was like McGlinchey popped up right there. He's just boom, pops up.
Yeah, he definitely he lost the leverage battle there. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is something that not every rep, but it's pretty consistent. And this is what I'm talking about. That tape is so kind of just there, very average tape from McGlinchey, but I think he's definitely a coachable prospect. I'll just kind of hint at it now with the scouting report. The grade that I came out with was 4.727, which I think is borderline first rounder. It's a second round grade, but he's probably going to be a first round guy. Pass block snaps, he had 378 graded from Pro Football Focus. He allowed 3 sacks, 2 hits allowed, 9 hurries for a total of 14 pressures, and his pass blocking efficiency percentage was 97. So not the highest guy out there. Tyrell Crosby from Oregon.
Yep.
Yeah, he had, I think, like 99.8. So he didn't allow like a single sack. I think he allowed 1 pressure or something like that. So,
yeah, he had Crosby real quick. I have it brought up. PBE, his efficiency in pass blocking, 99.2, 0 sacks allowed, 0 hits allowed, 3 hurries allowed. So total of 3 pressures the entire season. So that's pretty ridiculous, especially when you compare it side by side to McGlinchey. And Crosby was another guy that was down at the Senior Bowl, and I thought he looked all right. I don't think he stood out, but it's kind of interesting when you look at the advanced statistics and compare the two, and even the rest of the class and how they match up versus McGlinchey. Right,
yeah. And I mean, McGlinchey, though, is, again, he's one of those guys that borderline first rounder, because realistically, when you're talking about your top 25 prospects, probably 17, 18 of those guys are getting first round grades. Everybody else getting second round grades or below. But you realize, hey, you got 32 teams going in round 1. Somebody's going to take a guy that's probably a second round pick, but you got to take him in round 1 because you don't have a choice, right? So
yeah, that's a great point, Russ, because you're going to see on the site and the draft tracker, you're going to see these grades and scouting reports, and those are the grades that we're going to give them. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go in that projected round. All right, so there's a difference between giving a grade and giving a projection. And so, McGlinchey may have a second round, maybe even a late second round grade on him, but guess what? He's going to project into the first round because he has that kind of talent, and you can't grade potential. You can't grade certain measurables. So obviously we're doing a lot of all the grading on the film. We're not talking about off the field issues and all that. So there's a big difference between grades and projections. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to rank a prospect, if you want to base it off a little bit of potential, I think that's fair. I wouldn't say do it with every single prospect because then it just turns into a big guessing game and you not trusting the film. But, like for an example, Maurice Hurst, for me, he's a top 10 player in the class. A lot of it, too, is based off film. I think he is got top 10 film out there. He's dominant. He's disruptive, things like that. But a lot of my stuff with him, I'm going off the potential that I think he's a versatile player. He might fall a little bit in the draft because of size. He's only 6'1", stuff like that. But
sure.
I think he's going to, when it's all said and done, he should be a top 10 guy out of the class. So moving forward, though, we got some Lamar Jackson stuff. You just wrote about him. Fantastic scouting report. I mean, there's so much information out there for a quarterback that isn't getting a lot of love. I mean, through Twitter and stuff, he's getting the love. But from the big-time analysts, people aren't giving him that credit. If you listen to ESPN, first draft with Kuiper and McShay, we're talking – I mean, and I get it. Those guys are a little bit off the rocker. But, I mean, I trust those guys, too. They watch a ton of film, right? And they think Lamar Jackson's a receiver. And I just have a hard time believing that. And I think your scouting report absolutely displays that this kid's a quarterback, maybe a little rough around the edges, but going a little bit about what you found on him and some of the things that we're going to be watching here on some clips.
Yeah, and you mentioned McShay and Kuiper, and and even some of the draft Twitter guys, the big names and whatnot. They always put out info like, oh yeah, I'm hearing scouts are saying he's going to be a receiver, and of course there's always that smoke, that a lot of these scouts and teams want out there. But you turn on the film, anyone that watches the film knows that he's not a receiver, and and it's funny because you hear a lot of people say, I worry about his frame, I worry about him taking hits and him getting injured. Which is, I think it's hogwash. But, okay, so you're saying he can't play quarterback, but he can play receiver and come across the middle and catch a ball, and that frame's not going to be an issue? Stop
right.
it. That's just nonsense. But, yeah, as far as Jackson, he was probably the prospect I was most interested in evaluating because you can't just look at his film because he's that type of player that made so many strides from his high school game up until his, college film. And you want to see that, you want to track that, and you want to give him, you want to see if he still has the ability to rise, still has the ability to have some room for potential and progress as a quarterback, because we all know his number one trait is his athletic ability, all right?
Yeah, right.
And he's played in a lot of games. He's played in 38 games. His statistics are so-so, especially when you talk about his completion percentage. It's 57% for his career. But if you look at, especially last season, you had a 73.1 adjusted completion percentage, so that takes it and factors in drops because 8.5% of his passes were dropped last year. So that completion percentage of 57%, there's that can lie to you sometimes. So that's why you can't just rely on box score scouting. So, but yeah, his athletic ability, it's really unparalleled in this class, and especially when you talk about the quarterback position. And that's one of the things that when I was doing a background on him, it kind of hindered him because it is his strength and he's so good at it and he's so flashy that it almost blinds people to him as a passer. And I think that, being recruited at Louisville, originally Petrino didn't want him. He didn't see a quarterback. And that's the type of thing that Jackson dealt with from when he was younger. And, his work ethic, he lost his dad at a young age, right around the age of 8, started playing football right at the, age of 8. And ever since then hasn't looked back. I mean, his mother got him a trainer at age 8 to help him to become a quarterback. I mean, I've never heard of any prospect having that type of, commitment from his mother, and then, from his Pee Wee coach to his high school coach, just surrounding him and giving him all the tools to succeed. And Jackson's that guy where his work ethic was so ingrained in him from his mother growing up that's why I'm like, trying to project this guy as a quarterback, it's almost too easy because he's got the work ethic. He wants to be better. He's had the trainer since he was younger. His mom gave him opportunities and whatnot. And it's funny because he was confident in his abilities when he moved to his new high school in sophomore year. It was one of those things. He came to the coach, spoke with the coach, and the coach was like, "Hey, your grades, they're not good enough, and
Right.
we need you to get your boards up." And so before that meeting ended, Lamar left the meeting room and told his coach, "Hey, I'm going to be your quarterback, and don't worry about my grades. I'm going to get my grades up." And for the next 2 grading periods, he had straight A's. So a little peek into his his work ethic, and when he sets his goals, when he is focused, he can accomplish some really, really good things. And I think we saw that from his freshman year of college up into his junior year last year in college. And I just love what I saw from him in his background, because that to me is really important for a guy that you're hearing whispers about, who can't play the quarterback position, because I want to see him getting better, but I want to see where's his ceiling. And I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. I mean, his ceiling is pretty damn high.
Yeah, I mean, his ceiling is definitely through the roof. I mean, compared to any other quarterback in the draft, I mean, there's a reason why the guy won the Heisman. Obviously, that's known for the fact that college football, they look at everything as far as, rushing statistics, passing statistics, not always winning football games. But I think he did a really good job, winning football games. Louisville was one of the top teams in the country. And overall, though, he's a player that maybe he does add a little bit of weight to the frame, a little bit of bulk, it's going to be a good thing for him. And he's a player that I just don't see a receiver. I mean, how can you say a guy's a receiver when he's never ran a route, right? I mean, it just doesn't even make sense to me. I really like what he does in the pocket. I think from 2016 to 2017, I think he got better at moving in the pocket and going through those progressions. There was times that he was staring down his number one receiver consistently from 2016, 2017. I think he did a better job scanning the field and kind of, like I said, going through those progressions and through the reads. And I mean, I think he could go in round 1. I wouldn't be opposed to anybody in the back half of round 1 taking him. Jacksonville obviously comes to mind. Minnesota comes to mind, depending on their quarterback situation and how that pans out. But when he was getting recruited, and you said Louisville didn't see a quarterback, did teams think he was just going to play receiver? Were they recruiting him as an athlete? Or
there was early in his freshman year, there was a point where Petrino wanted to get him on the field, and they did throw him in at receiver. And I think they tried a trick play, and it didn't work. And Jackson, he said he choked on the play. But that's the thing. Like he had to prove his coach that he was a quarterback. That to me speaks volumes. Because he wasn't recruited heavily by Louisville. A lot of programs passed on him early on as a quarterback, and some of them even wanted to redshirt him. But he wanted to play, and he believed in himself, and I love that. And, we talked about, his frame. I mean, I'm looking back, from when he arrived in 2015 to Louisville, he made a ton of strides when it came to his frame, his muscle. He put on 13 pounds of muscle, reduced his body fat from 10.6 to 4.6%. I mean, he increased his broad jump 17 inches, and he was squatting 450 pounds. So in a short amount of time, when he first got to that campus, he immediately changed his body around. And if you look at some of his footage and just images of him this past season, you're going to see a different frame. I mean, he is muscle. It's not like he is slender. He's a slender frame because of his height and how much he actually weighs overall. But he's cut. I mean, the guy has muscle on him. There's no doubt about it.
Right. And it's not like he doesn't have a strong arm. I mean, he's got probably one of the strongest arms in the draft from what I'm seeing.
Hands down. Arm talent, hands down. Overall, he's got – I mean, everyone says the flick of the wrist. It's absolutely true. He doesn't need his lower body, and we're going to talk about some of his weaknesses, and one of those things is his mechanics, his narrow base, and his lower body. He doesn't even need it. That's what's so scary about him. He's got the arm talent to overcome shoddy mechanics.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about another strength of his. You talked to, his arm strength, his athletic ability, obviously. I mean, yes, he can run the ball. We all know that he had a tremendous career as a runner, but I don't really want to focus on that. I want to focus on his ability to manipulate the pocket, his poise in the pocket, his ability to extend plays. How many times was an unblocked defender coming at him? He made a miss, and then he would just get his eyes, back downfield. And this is something that if you go into the report, I go into a great detail about this. So with that said, let's transition to the film, because I think I picked two plays that obviously things that I liked about the guy. And it was good to see on film from a guy like him, because again, there's just so much misinformation out there as far as him as a quarterback. So let me go ahead and bring the film up.
Right. And, I'll kind of bring it back to when Teddy Bridgewater was coming out. Teddy was considered at one point the top quarterback in that class. And then all of a sudden he falls to the end of the first round, and Lamar Jackson's not even obviously getting that type of love. But I think he could be a guy that, like I said, goes at the end of the first round and potentially starts for a team, just like Teddy Bridgewater did for Minnesota. I think Lamar Jackson is very talented. At one point, he was my top quarterback. I've now got Josh Rosen there. I'm watching you put this whole thing on the screen. But, where do you think Lamar Jackson goes as far as the quarterbacks? Where do you have him ranked, if you don't mind me asking? I know you've got to do more on every other quarterback too, but –
yeah, right now I have him. He's literally right on the fringe. He's peeking in at the first round. So his grade falls right in that early second round. But again, you're talking projection when you're talking about the quarterback position and this guy's possible ceiling and potential. There's no doubt he could slip into the first round, especially if there's a run at the quarterback position.
Yep.
As far as where he ranks, he's really probably 4 or 5 right now overall. Okay. But I've only graded Darnold most of Mayfield's year, and Jackson, a lot of Rudolph's. And so I still have a lot of work to do, but
right.
He's got to fall into the first round. He's got a second round grade for me right now. And it's because of plays like this. We saw him, you talked about him early on in his career, locking on to the first receiver or second receiver and not going through his reads, dropping his eyes. And even Petrino and that staff, that's one thing they worked on at practice. They literally, anytime he dropped his eyes because of pressure or because of a stunt or guy flashing in front of him, they literally would stop practice. They wouldn't let him complete the play. And Lamar would give the coaches, look, hey, I would have scored on a touchdown there. And the coaching staff didn't want to see that from him. They wanted to develop him and refine his skills as a quarterback. And you're going to see it in this play early in the season of 2017, because you have a play action pass. And now what I want you to pay attention to is just the rush initially. You're going to see after the play action pass, there's going to be pressure in his face by 2 guys.
Yeah, it was split second. It was right there.
Yeah, and early on in his career, this is him taking off. You're probably going to see him, drop his eyes and hit that open green, right?
I was going to say run right to his left.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But that's not him anymore. Now what he's doing is he's resetting. He's keeping his eyes downfield, resetting, and finding his receiver downfield. And this is a strike. Look where he's throwing it from.
It's a laser.
The 22-yard line or so, and he's going to hit this target who, honestly, is not even really running. He's not really running a crossing route. So Jackson pretty much throws this guy open because this guy was just running down the seam. He's not looking to bend it across the middle. But because of this single high safety right here, Jackson knows that he has a nice little gap right here to throw, a nice little throwing window, and he just throws a strike, throws the guy open. This is just a tremendous play by Jackson of keeping his eyes downfield, manipulating that pocket. And we talk about him being able to extend plays outside of the pocket. Well, there's also a facet of work and manipulating the pocket and extending plays within the pocket, right? He doesn't have a pocket here initially after this play action fake. He immediately has 2 rushers, one right here and one right here, flashing right at him. Easily could have just pulled it down and ran it here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure. I honestly thought that's what we were about to see. I thought we were going to see him tuck it and go, man. Like that's what he was in 2016. And he's definitely – is this from 2016 or 2017?
This is from last season, yeah. I believe this is the first game versus Purdue.
Oh, yeah, Purdue, yeah.
So it's a great job. He extends a play, but within the pocket, because you see him here. He's keeping his eyes downfield. It's just a great job. His head's up. He's looking downfield. And honestly, there's a guy in the window. There's a guy in this passing window. Of course, he is moving to his left, but Jackson just does a good job of, resetting his base, resetting his footwork.
Yeah. And he's got all day to make this throw too now. And
that's tremendous poise, right? That's a really good job in the framework of, obviously manipulating the pocket and whatnot. It's just a really nice play. I was honestly, I'm like, wow. So this is the way he's starting off the season. The work he put in obviously showed up on a play like this.
Right. And I mean, and that's not like, just a little loft throw across the middle. I mean, he puts this thing on the money, puts everything he can behind it. Maybe that's one of his biggest downfalls from what I've seen. Maybe he puts a little bit too much in every throw, trying to like light up the radar gun. But
Sure.
I mean, still, this is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, like you talked about, he threw this from right about the 22, threw the guy open across the middle. The ball lands right around the 50. I mean, that's a straight shot for him.
Yeah, 28 yards.
I mean, that's a really nice play. And again, I talk about his, ability to extend the play, but that poise right there, that poise was pretty special from him, and something, again, that showed up on film. That he worked on it, especially in that first game. It shows you, okay, all right, so that's the way we're going to start the season, huh?
Yep.
So let's fast forward. We're going to go to another play here, another passing play, because again, I don't want to focus on his running. I want you, if you want to look at his highlights, you're going to see a lot of run plays. And in fact, if you go to the report at Cover1, you're going to see at the very end that one of his strengths obviously is his ability to run with the ball in his hand. I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on the pro style offense that he played in under Petrino. I want to focus on how Louisville was so confident in him as a passer that they sent out quite frequently 5 guys in the routes. I mean,
right.
Who's talking about that? This is not easy. A lot of guys in the NFL aren't even doing this. Sending
right.
5 guys in the routes. This is trust in your quarterback that he's going to be able to go through progressions. He's going to be able to sit in the pocket and make throws. And, he does it here. And I really like this play because obviously they score here, but we're going to see it from the tight camera angle. Besides throwing 5 guys into a route, Jackson is actually trying to work the field here. He's trying to get it to any of these 3 receivers right here.
Yeah, and the thing, too, is something that you see all the time on Sundays with the Packers, with the Patriots. You'll see stuff like this, and then you'll see this underneath route all the time. And, I mean, this is what you see on Sundays from good quarterbacks and good teams and teams that win. And, I mean, if a team knows that they can get this from day one with Lamar Jackson, why wouldn't you take him? I mean, I totally would.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, this guy he actually hits it to is probably his 3rd or 4th option. I would say his 4th option because –
you got 3 to the left.
Yeah, what Louisville is going to run here is just a little Mills concept. You're going to see, a deep dig. You're going to see a post route from the number 1. You're going to see a wheel route up the sideline, and it's defended really well. It really is. These first 3 reads are progressions by Lamar. There's really nothing there. Typically based on if it's single high or too high, you're going to want to try to hit this post. Well, obviously he's pretty, he's bracketed pretty well. And the safety, he spaced it pretty good on his part too, because he's kind of got not just a post covered, but he's got that dig covered. You're going to see up the sideline. Again, a really good job of carrying that up the sideline. So he's really got no one open except this crosser. And again, this is probably his 4th receiver in his progression. And you're going to see his eyes. You're going to see his feet working through this progression here from the tight camera angle. And I just love how he went through progressions. And you see this a lot. And a lot of Bills fans compare Lamar Jackson to Tyrod Taylor. And I'm sorry. Right now, Lamar Jackson he's a better passer. And I think he has much more potential in that department, especially when it comes to field vision, something that Jackson obviously has worked on.
Right. Well, there's a reason why Lamar Jackson's got that borderline discussion where Tyrod Taylor did not. I mean, there's a reason for it. And I mean, I think on this play, clearly you see Lamar, and I think he's going with this underneath route, and he's not even going for the touchdown. I mean, he's going just first down. I mean, he threw it 10 yards, and then just the receiver did a great job after the catch, but nice little pass rush by Harold Landry off the edge. Jeez Louise, that's terrible.
Right. So Boston College, he's got those flashes, right? But this is not one of them.
My God, that was bad.
So, and we'll talk about it. So it's a 4-man rush, and immediately you want to watch the drop of Jackson. It's really smooth. He's transferring his weight really well. Again, that narrow base is one of his. I don't want to say it's a downfall, honestly, Russ, because I'm not a quarterback guru by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't know why. The quarterback whisperer and Petrino and his son Nick Petrino had him stand like this in the pocket. There's got to be a reason behind it. I'm not going to try to speculate on why, but there's a reason behind it. And so, you see him, it's a narrow base, sure, but he transfers his weight.
Maybe it's got something to do with if they want him to take off, maybe that makes him faster. I don't know.
I think it has to do, because I watched some of his high school footage and some of, I think it's called the Golden Arm Challenge, and how he transferred his way. I think it has to do with accuracy and just maybe it has the mechanics of him, the process of throwing. I think this is supposed to obviously help his accuracy because as we talked about, his arm talent is ridiculous. His arm strength is ridiculous. He doesn't need that lower body. But I think that narrow base, obviously there's a reason for them to have him do this. But again, just watch his eyes. I mean, he's looking to the field. He's trying to get it down the field. And you know what? A lot of times these plays are drawn up to where if the second or third read to the field here isn't open, well, guess what? You're going to have a guy coming right into your window, and that's exactly what happens. And it's a catchable pass. Yes, it's in the short area. He's wide open, but this is something that 0 to 9 yardage range, that's not really Jackson's strength. When you compare him to the other quarterbacks in this class, he's actually has the lowest completion percentage in that 0 to 9 range. I think it was in the 67th percentile range, but out of all the quarterbacks, the big name quarterbacks in this draft, that was actually the lowest, but that's here nor there. But it's just a good job of him distributing because you want your quarterback to be, that point guard, that distributor. And I mean, he really put it together on this play, and he did this a lot this season. So I don't understand when people say that he's not a quarterback, that he can't throw from the pocket, because that's exactly what he did on this play and a lot during this season. Good job by Lamar there. And so, again, I think he's a guy that you're going to see in that first round, probably end of the first round, early second round range, because he's shown that he can progress. He's shown that he has the potential, obviously. When he gets to that new team, that team's probably going to want to tweak his mechanics a little bit because that narrow base could be an issue in some respects. It leads to overstriding a lot of times, which obviously his biggest knock is accuracy, his placement. And especially in that short to deep range, it's something that he struggled with, and he does need to get better in that area. And we talked about his short, completion percentage in the 0 to 9 yard range. Well, deep, he was also one of the worst quarterbacks too. I mean, his completion percentage on passes 20 yards or more, Russ, was 28.6%. That was the lowest amongst Mayfield, Rudolph, Falk, Rosen, Darnold, Mike White, and even Josh Allen. So as good as arm talent as he has, Russ, he's got areas to improve, and especially in that short and deep area.
Yeah. Well, I think he's definitely a project for sure. Like you said, you think he's probably going to go early, round 2, maybe late round 1. Teams that obviously kind of come to mind, you got to think Buffalo Bills have to come to mind with 2 first-round picks.
Sure.
Obviously, they have 2 second-round picks too, but they come to mind. Cleveland, with all the ammunition that they have in this draft, I wouldn't be surprised if they moved back into round 1. And if, let's say, they passed on a quarterback at 1 and 4, maybe they think Lamar's their guy, and maybe he's the guy, late round 1. You never know. Minnesota obviously makes a lot of sense, in my opinion, simply for the fact that you don't really know what their quarterback situation looks like. I'm just trying to think of other teams. Jacksonville makes a lot of sense because they've got Blake Bortles for another year. Probably going to sign him, but that just makes a lot of sense. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where he falls. I think he's for sure a quarterback. I think he did a great job touching base with it. So definitely go to cover1.net. Check that out with that breakdown. You've got one on Joshua Jackson as well. You've got Sam Darnold. I mean, you're just lighting up the scouting reports the last since the Senior Bowl. And be sure to check out the draft tracker, the draft database. So much information is coming to cover1.net. It's going to be fantastic. And I mean, that's what I love right there. You can just search somebody. Boom. It's all right there. Height, weight. We're going to put in the combine scores. It's got grades on there, who scouted them. It's fantastic. I'm loving what we're doing with the site.
So Russ, what are you working on for this week? Are you going to be putting out a McGlinchey scouting report, or what report are you working on this week that we can obviously be on a lookout for?
Yeah. So Mike McGlinchey is actually up in the queue right now, not ready for review, but we're working on it. So that'll be up, today, tonight, and then be, put up for review and probably come out early tomorrow morning. I'll get back to Quentin Nelson. Dan put out something as far as scouting notes go, but I'll go in a little bit more detail. And I want to work a little bit on Marcel Frazier, who was a guy that before the Senior Bowl, I had him at 29 on the big board. But I went back and, I saw 2 films and I was like, all right, yeah, I'm liking what I see. And then I go back and I'm watching and I'm seeing some of the bad games. And now I'm kind of second guessing it. So I want to dive into him a little bit and talk defensive lineman, because that's really what I specialize in as far as what I'm watching week to week. So yeah, we got McGlinchey coming, Frazier's on the way, and whatever else we got. So
yeah, just again, you're gonna be hearing this Cover One the podcast on iTunes. You can find us on the Grandstand Sports Network, grandstandsportsnetwork.com. We're obviously affiliated with them. It's a site that I co-founded. We have over 20 different podcasts and brands and websites all coming together, working together as a team, not fighting on content. We're all working together. We want to collaborate. We want to bring out the best content, not just from Cover One perspective, in the Bills and the NFL draft and scouting and whatnot, but we want other teams, and we want to bring in guys that know their information. And we talked about Brad Kelly, joining the team, and he's going to be working on a lot of the receivers for us this draft season. So again, we have a lot of content. There's a lot to digest. You're not going to get to it all in one day. You look at our scouting reports, you're going to see that they're quite lengthy. They're detailed, but that's what separates us from a lot of other brands at Cover One. So get to cover1.net, check out all the content, and thanks for tuning in.